Welcome back, and it's a Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We begin the second segment of our interviews. It's been 3 years of Nigeria officially certified polio-free, and this didn't come very cheap. It took years of advocacy and enhanced vaccination to achieve the feat. Nigeria now attained wild polio-free status after meeting all the criteria for certification, which include 3 years of non-detection of any wild polio virus case in the country. Well, it's a tale of good news in the health sector. We still have in the studio briefly. Yes, Dr. Malumba is still in Kano, and I believe he was part of the partners that congratulated Nigeria in 2020 for being polio free. It's been 3 years. Where are we on that now, and what is the step forward?
Thank you for your question. Nigeria is still wide poliovirus free till today. Nigeria is facing another type of polio outbreak, which is the vaccine-derived polio outbreak, which is a result of the attenuated vaccine seeding and mutating in the community, where you find a certain proportion of children who are immunized. But Nigeria is also working to suppress transmission of that type of polio. But it has nothing to do with wild polio virus. Nigeria is still certified polio free, as is the rest of Africa. We've supported the government to rebuild the capacity to address polio transmission, and the transmission of the vaccine-derived polio has been reduced by 80% compared to last year, which is very good news, particularly as the teams have been able to strengthen the surveillance and the capacity for outbreak response. The quality of outbreak response campaign have improved. So here we are, but we need to remain vigilant, because in Malawi and in Mozambique, there were cases of importation of wild poliovirus, which are still to the endemic, the last two endemic countries, Pakistan in particular, and we need to remain vigilant. So no reason to be worried, I might say, for now, as far as remaining polio free, but we need to be cautious and continue the job until such time the job is done. You know that there's a new polio endgame strategy 2022-2026, and which target elimination of all forms of polio, both wild poliovirus but also vaccine-derived poliovirus. So this is what I can say for now as to where Nigeria is with respect to polio certification and free status. Over.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Mulombo. Dr. Faisal, by tomorrow exactly, it will be 3 years marking, or talking about 3 good years of getting polio out of Nigeria. But that sounds like just maybe some people will say 3 years, are we not having cases of polio now? What does that translate to? 3 years anniversary. What does it really mean? Are there no polio cases in Nigeria? Are we out of it? Because from what we've read, one of the last continent on Africa is mainly Afghanistan, and is it the Pakistan or the country? That's on the whole worldwide planet. What does that translate to? No more polio in Nigeria?
What it means is there's no more wild type of polio virus. It means we no longer have naturally occurring wild polio virus in Nigeria. So there are two different things here. So what we're saying is that in our environment, there are polio viruses that exist naturally. We no longer have that. However, because of low childhood immunization in some parts of the country, we have seen a mutation, a change in the nature of polio viruses that has led to what we call circulating variant polio viruses.
Yes.
The closest example is what we are seeing with COVID-19, where we have closely followed how COVID-19, we had alpha variant, beta, delta, and omicron, right?
Yes.
So it's similar to that with the polio virus. We have variants that can also cause paralysis, but just like the WHO country rep said, we had this outbreak last year. We mounted an impressive response, and we have reduced by more than 80% the numbers of these types of viruses. So we did house-to-house campaigns, working with the states, with the governors, commissioners, executive secretaries, to make sure that these viruses did not go to an extent where it will be completely uncontrollable. So 3 years anniversary without a single case of wild polio virus means 3 years since the global community led by WHO certified Nigeria as wild polio virus free. But in actual fact, it's been 6 years since the last case of wild polio virus was detected in Nigeria. The last case of wild polio virus was seen in 2016 in Borno State. Now, a year after that, there was still no polio virus because of our response in 2016. That 1 year after 2016 is what we describe as evidence of interrupting any form of circulation. So Nigeria interrupted wild polio virus circulation in 2017, right? And then we now calculate 3 years after that, and that is where we arrived at evidence, because people had to come from the WHO regional office. There's a committee that goes and looks around. When you say there's no wild polio virus, does it mean that there's no wild polio virus, or is it that you are not looking for it, right?
Are you looking for it?
Absolutely. So that is what they look out for, right? They look out to see, okay, we say there's no wild polio viruses, but is there evidence that we are actually looking for the virus and it is not there in the community? So it's just like somebody comes to Abuja and say, oh, I did not see Jume, I did not see Nairobi. You have to ask them, is there evidence that they have actually looked for you people in the right places? Have they come to NTA? Have they come to the places where you people should be? It's the same methodology. They had to look around, check, for example, in healthy children to see if they are harboring the virus. They checked in our sewage, in our environment, to see if there's evidence that the virus might be in the environment, but it's not picked up. That is why the surveillance level is very, very important. What gives us confidence that we don't have wild polio viruses is because our surveillance indicators, all of the things that we do to check for the wild polio viruses in humans, in the environment, shows that there is none, right? So there's no wild polio virus, but we have circulating variant polio viruses that have occurred due to naturally occurring mutation. It's a normal genetic, sort of activity that occurs with viruses. That is what caused the outbreak since 2018. But again, we've seen a tapering down, and we're hopeful that with the collaborations with our traditional leaders, with our religious leaders, with subnational, that will continue to maintain that. So the heroes of the polio fight has got to be the frontline workers, right? They have gone, crossed rivers, climbed mountains to reach every single child.
Sometimes threatened.
Absolutely, and even insecure. That is one of the reasons why the Northeast was one of the last places where we eradicated wild polio viruses, because health workers had to go to places where their lives were threatened, right? They had to work with traditional leaders, with religious leaders, to understand and know how they can approach some of these areas. And then our military were also very gallant, because it's very easy to give the oral polio drops. So the military were able to also vaccinate some of the kids in the security compromised areas. So the wild polio virus eradication effort is really an effort around solidarity between government, partners, donors, but also every single member of the community. So this was a glaring example of where Nigerians came together to eradicate a disease that has been with us for a very long time. Exactly. And this,
huge devastation.
Yes, absolutely. And it is the lessons that we're learning, what we've learned from the white polio virus, that is what we're using to now introduce other vaccines, like the rotavirus vaccines that we talked about. And the fact that we know vaccines work, we've eradicated a disease, white polio virus. Now we're going to be introducing the human papilloma virus vaccine next year in 2023. The human papilloma virus is what causes cervical cancer. Okay. And Nigeria has one of the second highest rate of cervical cancer in the whole of Africa, right? Wow. So, for example, there was a study that was done in 2018 in West Africa, and there were about 32,000 cases of cervical cancer. Almost half of these cases were in Nigeria. In Nigeria, as of 2018, and really not much has changed since then.
Quite alarming.
Yes, 28 women die every day due to cervical cancer. So imagine what it means when we introduce the vaccine next year. It is huge. It's very, very important. So there may not be a lot of noise that is made about what's happening in the health sector, in the primary healthcare space. It's because these are quiet battles that we are winning against diseases. If we're able to introduce the human papilloma virus vaccine next year, it will protect women from cervical cancer. And cervical cancer is a big deal. 250 women out of every 100,000 women
die.
Yes, die from cervical cancer. So it's very, very, very important that we're introducing this, and then of course the malaria vaccine as well that we're going to be introducing next year.
We're quite excited about it.
Absolutely. This is what we live for.
Yeah, exactly. Let's join Dr. Mulumba, as the program begins to wind down, and see ways that UNICEF and WHO will continue to help Nigerians strengthening the primary health care.
Aaron, would you like to repeat again?
I'm asking, in the long term, with all these successes being recorded, in what ways can you continue, as the World Health Organization, continue to help Nigerians in strengthening the primary health care?
Thank you. As I said before, primary health care is an approach. It's a role of government approach and the role of society undertaking. So it's very important that the other sector ministries understand that they have a role to play. For instance, how many policy documents outside health mention primary health care in the policy document at all? Whether the security, administration, the territory, whether finance, agriculture, and other. So we need to start building that in the system. And WHO, one of the things we will be doing differently is going really and truly beyond the Ministry of Health to try and gain momentum and endorsement of what health is doing. COVID-19 has taught us that health is crucial to everything we do. We have started, we have engaged with the Minister of Finance, we have engaged and we are engaging still with the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Minister of Women Affairs, and others. We are engaging with governors and traditional leaders. We want to really push that message, because that's where we think we can make a difference, and trying to use our extensive presence, being in every state in Nigeria, to try and negotiate a broker relationship between different agencies, government agencies, bringing on board the private sector through public-private partnership. And as you know, the private sector in Nigeria deliver over 70% of healthcare, so we may not achieve objective or PSC if we don't use them. In some states, it may mean helping the government to regulate private sector intervention. In others, is trying to get private sector engaging in overseeing some of the primary health care centers. So we have a huge opportunity out there. And WHO really will continue to expand our portfolio to make sure that it really becomes a whole of government and whole of society approach, rather than it being NTA, CDA, and NHOF alone, or with the counterpart at the state level. It has to be really everybody, and I would like to call upon you to, for the media community, to really, to engage in that discourse, so that everybody continue to that piece. We don't have any other way to do it. It's a partnership, the whole of government, all of society, building on community empowerment, and trying to integrate different intervention. When I visited one of the states, I saw some of the adverts. We're mentioning, some highway to link the largest market in Africa to the rest of Nigeria. I told the governor in that state that if while building this type of highway, you could think of every 5 kilometers putting a high quality primary health care center on the road, it will send already a message that we are not only concerned about the road, but as you are building the road, we are also looking into strengthening primary health care health system. So that's really the way to go, and that's the direction I'm engaging WHO here in Nigeria, and I'm sure we'll have a success story to tell the rest of the world. Over.
Thank you so much, thank you, Dr. Walter Kazadi Mulombo. Thank you, and I wish you all the best in your engagement in Kano. Walter Kazadi is the Blue World Health Organization country representative in Nigeria. He's in Kano on a mission for this very cause. Thank you so much. Now, let's come back to the studio here once again, and then finally, I must say, and round up this program. Dr. Faisal, there have been pains, as you mentioned, in trying to attain or rather reach here 3 years after no wildfire, world polio virus. The gains are much, which means there's a party in the air. If you're happy, if you're great. How do we keep on partying along that line about talking about polio, wild polio virus? How can we maintain this success? How do we consolidate on these gains? What are the efforts being placed, or what are the measures? Finally, maybe in a minute or so.
Right. So for everything that we do as humans, we cannot lose sight of the challenges that exist. But we also have to recognize and acknowledge the efforts that have gone into the little gains that we observe, right? So here we are 3 years down the line, post-wild polio virus eradication, and we're using this as an opportunity to honor those who gave their lives, those who are the heroes of the wild polio virus eradication effort. So we do recognize that there's a lot that needs to be done, right? But we thought this 10-year anniversary is a time, for that recognition, for those who paid the ultimate price, but also for our traditional leaders, religious leaders, our health workers, so many leaders that stood firm to make sure that no child in Nigeria ever gets paralyzed from the wild polio virus ever again. But it's also an opportunity for us to look at what it is that we have within the system that can ensure that we deliver primary healthcare services to people in our communities. This is why we are very excited about the fact that many governors are now coming on board when it comes to rolling out our community health workers program. In 2018, President Muhammadu Buhari launched the CHIPS program, Community Health Influencers Promoters Services, where community people, young ladies and men in the communities are recruited under the guidance of the traditional leaders. They are given the skills to be able to go from house to house to treat simple ailments, malaria, simple injuries, right? Over time, we've seen states that have really adopted this and is beginning to have a positive impact in terms of reducing the number of women and children that are dying from perfectly preventable causes because they are educating people in our communities. It's very, very important that as any society develops, they don't leave behind those who are the weakest and the most vulnerable. And this is why we're very excited about what the future portends for
I can't wait for the malaria vaccine. I don't like taking drugs, actually.
Unfortunately, you have the kid. This is for just the kids. Maybe later the adults will get it.
Thank you, Dr. Faisal Sharif, the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer, National Primary Health Care Development Agency. Thank you so much for bringing to the to light all the things you've been doing and how Nigerians can key into whatever it is you're bringing out. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again tomorrow for another interesting edition. I am Jumbo Yusuf.
You know, Mr. Narabus, we're saying you have a great day. See you tomorrow.